Good afternoon.
A very, very, very warm welcome and good afternoon. Honestly, it was just last week on Friday, Avneet, that we launched one of our most celebrated initiatives at Ncubate, which is a Power Pact membership for women. And while we were launching that, since then, first of all, thank you to everyone. We've got an overwhelming response, and I personally really am so amazed to hear some of the beautiful stories of the female founders who've been coming and talking to us about the brands they've built, about the business that they've built, and their dreams and aspirations. But let me tell this to you. Had it not been for them talking to me personally on a one-on-one call, I wouldn't have never known about them. And today, that's why Avneet and I want to take this time to talk about something that's very obvious and it's right in front of us. It's that one thing that's free to build but will only give you maximum ROI. So, Avneet, what is that one thing that I'm talking about? Please take a hint.
Today we're talking about personal branding. And we so often, overlook the importance of personal branding. I think a lot of people hold back because of, the fear of judgment. What are people going to think of me? My nose is too big. I've put on weight. I don't look good on camera. And this is not just true to women, B. I think it's about anyone, right? The fear of judgment is very, very true for so many of us. And hence, we hold back from putting ourselves out there, from showcasing our thought leadership, and we don't realize the impact that it has on our business.
Absolutely. And, I do want to just point this out, right? 20 years ago, launching a business had multiple entry barriers, right? And one of the largest entry barrier was how will people get to know what my brand is? How will people trust it? And how will people come and buy from me? Today, with social media being relevant and with channels across like LinkedIn, especially, that problem of credibility is solved, right? So the platform is created. You no longer have to spend, millions of dollars in PR campaigns for someone to get to know you. You can do that sitting very much at the ease of your home with a computer and with connections, right? So personal branding is really nothing but a way where someone who could be a potential stakeholder, who could be a potential buyer, who could be a potential partner for you, to understand who you are and what you do and how do they perceive you is what that personal brand is, right? So it's not like Avneet said, right? It's not about putting, like a bunch of praises for yourself out there, but it's actually making your authentic self match with the image, reputation, and credibility that you want to carry forward of your brand, right? And when your authenticity and brand meet together, that's what a personal brand is. So, Avneet, I want your thoughts on something, right? We all buy things, right? When you buy something, do you buy it because of something, some reason? Like, what is that one thing that compels you to buy a particular brand? And I know of late you've been using a lot of Indian made brands, right? So, what is that one thing that really compels you to make that buying decision?
I think it's trust, right? Can I trust this brand for what it's saying that it does? If you think of Apple, for instance, you know that the minute you invest in that, there's a certain quality, there's a certain pedigree, there's a certain finesse that comes with it. And all the others, I don't want to take names, but that's how you kind of build this affinity towards a brand, you have that loyalty, you have trust, credibility, all of that comes with it. And talking of people, I think you are the master of personal branding. I think you've really nailed it. That too in the heart of the pandemic. I'd love for you to share your personal story with how you stumbled upon the importance of personal branding. Why did you start? How did you start? And I think there's a lot to learn. I learn a lot from you on this every day. So I'll let you talk about the people aspect of it.
Thank you, Avneet. And I'm still in the process of making it, but yes, I figured a few hacks of how it works. So I think the most important thing is, as an entrepreneur, we are always struggling for time, and we tend to prioritize things that to us make the most sense, right? And most of those things are doing like a sales outreach, or figuring out how do I make those numbers meet, or maybe getting something done with my team, right, on a regular basis. Now, what I realized early on, right, and I'm talking about 2016-17, is that every business has a very unique story to it, right? And until and unless that unique story and that unique founder story is not put forward, you're not going to be able to differentiate yourself or have that USP, right? So for me, the journey really started to build two things. One was credibility, which I spoke of, and one was really saying, how can we organically generate traffic, interest, and of course nurture that to for it to become leads, right? So even with Ncubate, right, though we officially launched in 2020, the work for that started almost 4 years before, when my interest peaked towards figuring out why is the startup ecosystem broken. I started going out there, posting my thoughts about why more women need to be present. I got some great people to connect with me, to share their thoughts, to share their feedback, right? And that all cumulatively over 4 years actually led to the launch of the brand. And when we launched the brand, there was already a sense of belonging, a sense of knowing, because the work was actually done 4 years before, and it was not something that was sort of thrown onto my network pretty much, just out of the blue. So, for anyone who's listening, if you're an entrepreneur, right, I want you to first understand, before we get into how do we build that brand, I need you to understand why it's very important, right? And keep these four things in mind, right? One is credibility and trust. You can save millions of dollars by just building that. Secondly, it is the best and most amazing way to actually generate organic leads for your business, because people hear you and they reach out to you. So it's more pull instead of push. Next is due diligence, right? We all do a heavy amount of social due diligence today, before we want to buy something, before we want to follow someone, before we want to invest, right? Like, we work with so many startups, we invest in so many startups through the network. And Avneet, I can tell you, right, the first thing investors do is do a due diligence, do a social due diligence on the founders, right, as to what they're up to. And of course, ultimately, how can you get a platform to speak to your potential audience, right? So I think for these reasons, it is imperative for you to start working and building that personal brand. And if I haven't convinced you, then Avneet, I want you to talk about someone who you have seen, over the years, who's built a very strong personal brand, and then that brand has reflected on the venture. I'm sure that will give people some food for thought.
Do you remind me of this beautiful quote, which I don't remember who the author is, but it says that people don't buy products and services, they buy from people and invest in relationships that they can trust. And I think that is such a beautiful way, or such a beautiful perspective to viewing personal branding, where it's not about tooting your own horn, or thinking that, oh, it's not about ego, or self praise, or what we can also call self love, but it's also about getting out of your head, out of that hesitation of how am I going to be perceived, and looking at it as an opportunity to share what you know, to contribute, to add value to anyone who's reading a post. I mean, for me, I authored a book last year, and even for me to generate interest for that book, I didn't do any performance marketing or anything of that sort. It was just me sharing with people what are the frameworks that worked for me, how I leveraged value from it, and coming from that place of service and contribution and adding value to someone, their life, their business, their personal growth, I think took the pressure out of, that I need to know it all and I need to be perfect with personal branding. Because yes, it is your reputation, but at the same time, I've had to, create and recreate my personal brand almost like thrice in my life, right? The first being a media person, all of that. My entire work was driven by who knew me and how I put myself forward. The second leg was when I was running my image consulting business. This is primarily what we learned, which is how do you, craft your perception and your brand in people's minds. Because in this cluttered world, when someone says something, are you one of the top 3 or 5 things that a person recollects? And today, as a coach, as an entrepreneur, as a co-founder of Incubate, having that entire brand realign towards diversity and towards entrepreneurship, it's an ongoing journey. So it's not something that you do once and you stop again, or you stop. And to come back to your question of examples, I think I personally draw inspiration from Vishen Lakhiani, who's the founder of Mind Valley, right? In the realm of coaching, in the realm of personal growth, I think this guy has done a phenomenal job with when he was authoring his book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, the way he leveraged his personal narrative, which fed into his edtech venture, Mind Valley. And I mean, today it pioneers the personal growth space. The other person who comes to my mind is Oprah Winfrey, right? I mean, though she's a media personality,
Absolutely.
she's someone who was there in the time where broadcast media did not have the kind of penetration that it did, but people watched the network because of the show, because of the human. So yeah, these are some names that come to my mind.
No, fantastic. I think both are great examples, and both have gone ahead to show us that the personal brand is the best way to leverage and translate all of that sort of brand created to actually make it work for your work, right? And which is your venture. Now, coming to some hacks, right? I want to take the next couple of minutes to share some hacks with everyone who's listening, right? Data tells us that the number one reason we don't do anything is because it's these three words: I'll figure it out. And that figuring out never happens. So Avneet and myself have tried to figure it out for you in the past 7-8 years, and we're sharing some hacks with you, right? So the first thing that I want to say is today, you need to maybe divide building your personal brand, just for the ease of how you divide your time, into two categories: online as well as offline, right? If you're someone who has a lot of time and is very well versed with online, and especially if you're a little bit of an introvert, you might not want to go to a lot of networking events. Online is the best way for you to sort of start building, right? Because you can actually put out content, you can build thought leadership, you can host your own properties, right? Without that fear of judgment or someone actually coming back at you, right? It's much tougher to do that in an in-person setting, right? So the first hack and the first tip that I want to give you is: put down 5 adjectives that relate to you as a person, and then put down 5 adjectives that relate to your brand. See where the commonality is, and whatever that commonality is becomes the voice of your personal brand that you want to put outline, right? The minute you have that sort of infrastructure in place, right, that this is going to be my tone, this is what I want to talk about, this is what I want to portray, creating content around that, right, whether it's static, whether it's video, whether it's text, can be figured out, right? So the first thing is, make sure that you align on those 3 to 4 adjectives, qualities, features that are a match between you as a person and the brand that you want to create. That's one for me. Avneet, I'll pass this on to you to maybe give them some hacks on the platform that they want to use or the kind of content that they might want to produce.
I would say there are two, layers to it, right? The first is figuring out which channel works for you. I mean, if you were to talk to, the first thing we tend to think is, okay, I'm starting my content journey. My camera needs to be HD. I need a full-fledged digital marketing agency. I need a, I need to be on all platforms. And honestly, I mean, when you're just starting out, uh, it's really hard to do because every brand, I mean, every platform has its own dimensions, whether it's creatives, has its own tone of voice, has its own, things that work and don't work. So, and that's where a lot of people give up, even with personal branding. So, what you want to do is, I say, you stick to a maximum of two platforms and figure out what is in sync with the message that you're trying to harrow. So, for example, if I am a youth, if I'm trying to cater, if, let's say I'm building, perks, discounts, and coupons for youth, right? College kids who want to save money. That's what my business is about. If I'm trying to cater to them and I am creating content on LinkedIn, that may not be the perfect fit. But if I was on, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram with my personal, entrepreneurial uh, learnings and doings on LinkedIn, that might work. If I can't do all four, then probably just pick two of them where the audience that you're trying to target is there. The second is, once you have figured what your channels are, it's always about, okay, now what do I say? And that what do I say, the answer remains in tell, don't sell. Personal branding is not about saying, oh, I've just launched this offer and it's available for a 50% discount. It is not about selling, it's about telling. So it's about telling about the proposition, about the benefits, about why you believe in it, what is the vision for it. So that is the storytelling aspect of it. That's what comes to my mind.
I love tell and don't sell, and that's so true, right? I think in this information overload era that we all exist, sometimes you just want to see refreshing content, right? So I also encourage you to share things that are personal to you, right? That make you human, right? I mean, yes, Chat GPT has made it so much easier for us to produce content, but I don't recommend only using that. It can never top up the intellect and the human brain and the emotions that flow through that, right? So please understand that any piece of content needs to have emotion, needs to have that feeling. And that's why I said that when you put down those adjectives about how you want your personal brand to be portrayed, it has to sync with you personally, because that authenticity, you can tell if content is copy pasted and written by AI, and you can tell whether content is
Written by
actually
human.
from human, right? And we just as a human race, we will kind of go towards and be directed towards content that's human written. So please ensure that it's absolutely fine to take help of these platforms, but don't completely rely on
Copy
them
paste.
writing it right for you, right? So that's with online, and Navneet brought out a very, very interesting point as well, which is please know where your audience are, right? Your personal brand strategically and intentionally needs to be built on platforms where your potential audience are, right? Because only then will it kind of convert to your personal brand into the brand of your organization. So you can actually figure that out based on demographics. Every platform, it's very easy to figure what demographics exist, how do users behave there, what posts work well. I mean, that all I'm sure social media experts can tell you. So that's with online, and my only last tip here would be consistency. Nothing
So
happens.
important.
Nothing happens with a gif of a finger. If you are extremely vermin, it says, right, it takes 25 years to build a brand, 25 years to build legacy brands, right? So if you're going to say post for like 1 month every day and then you're like, nothing's working, I'm sorry, mate. 1 month and 30 days is doing nothing, right? So consistency matters, and consistency will, it's like investing. I keep saying this, relationship building or building a brand is like investing, right? You're never going to make money in a short term, it's always long term compounding. Similarly with your brand, right? Great, that's with offline. Now, sorry, that's with online. Now let's get to offline. This is where it gets interesting, because so many of us are great at putting out content, but then the minute we go into the real world, right, where we have to meet people one to one, or attend events or organize them on our own, that's when somewhere we feel a little bit anxious, nervous. Fear of judgment is actually even more when you're in person, right? So my only sort of the first thing that I want to say here is, again, please understand there's always a human to human connection, right? The era of networking or putting yourself out there through business cards is gone. So if you're doing that in today's date as well, please don't do that. Please save paper. Every social media has a QR code. You can have an e-card, you can exchange that, right? But before you even exchange your card with someone, I think people need to know who you are, and you need to be interested in the other person, right? So take out the time to get to know what the other person is doing, what do they care about, before you enforcing all sorts of information on them, right? So that's one. And second thing is, please practice your introductions, your express sort of intros, or whatever that you want to tell people. I don't think there's anyone in this world who's mastered public speaking. I just think they've said the same thing consistently over a long period of time, which is why the brain has got wired. So please take this out of your mind that some people are born orators and some are not. We all are born with that skill. It's about how often are we learning that, right? But yeah, Avneet, more thoughts from you on any tips or anything when people are trying to build their brand in an offline setting.
Uh, I bang on agree with you on the business cards point, right? I don't know how many events I would have been at, and people just come, distributing their business card. Which, number one, I mean, it just makes you, it commoditizes you and your business versus, establishing leadership or recollection of any sort. So I think your business card is extremely important. And I mean, it also makes me circle back to us as a platform, as Ncubate, right? The first is whether it's online, whether it's offline, um, we provide both of those opportunities for founders specifically, right? To put out, whether it is providing, strategic advisory, guidance, hand holding on the content itself in an online medium, or in offline, if you're at the hesitation stage of what do I say, and you're not clear on your pitch, clarifying that entire 30-second piece that you tell people, and you tell people often enough where they remember it and you believe in it. So very often we don't nail, in an offline setting, we don't nail our 30-second, opening line. And that is when we use too many words and we seem nervous, and the other person, it doesn't land with the other person. So we also, guide people with what is that, 30-second pitch that you need to clarify. And you have that safe setting where you practice it enough and many times. We in fact even go to the extent of curating these introductions and putting people together so that it becomes easier and it becomes more value driven. D, I would love to pull up our presentation because we worked so hard. This is one of the key pillars as a part of the network membership as well, because I am aware
Absolutely.
that a lot of people don't get started with this. They know it's important, but they don't
Yes.
let themselves start with it.
No, and I think that's one of the key takeaways of the membership that we've designed, that it is a structured way to help you achieve your business goals. And building that personal brand and brand equity is something that is a key pillar. So, Avneet, I really want to, sort of dive into how we are Incubate are helping founders do this.
We proudly, in one sentence, now that we're telling you to do this, this is what we call the network membership. It is your gateway to scaling up your venture. This membership has been designed so intentionally where, we found that when you look at the startup ecosystem, firstly, the word ecosystem is one of the most commonly used words. But what does it mean to be a part of an ecosystem? It means that all the different contributing elements interdependently support each other towards growth. And that's what we are trying to imbibe with respect to female founders in the business landscape. So it's about pulling all these different stakeholders together to enable and catalyze growth for women entrepreneurs. We call this the passport to scale, raise, and go global with your venture. The
Absolutely. And, again, like Avneet said, this is very intentionally designed to help women business owners raise, scale, and go global, right? And on the screen, you can see everything that you get is first a doing word, right? Whether it's helping you connect with the global network of leaders, helping you build that personal brand, helping you get curated investor introductions, so on and so forth, right? So Ncubate's value in helping you build a brand, helping you build your venture to greater heights is something that's really, really paramount to us, right? And while we are sort of showing this to you on the screen, at your own time, please make sure that you go on to our landing page, which is www.ncubate.com/become a member. Everything is very, very beautifully laid out, right? But I just want to say this, that if you're someone who realizes that to grow a small vision into a big company, into a brand, right, it takes 25 years, I said that. But if you act smartly, strategically, and collectively with a network like ours, I think those years can be drastically reduced and the impact can be, drastically increased. So, Avneet, I'm sure that, one of the key things of building a brand is also understanding how do I increase my network, right? How do I know what's happening in the world globally? How do I connect to the right ecosystems globally, right? And I think at Ncubate, a lot of emphasis is given on that, where we don't only want to restrict you to build a network locally within your city or realm, but for you to be, building your networks within India as well as outside, right? And a big part of that comes with attending relevant global conferences that Ncubate works very hard to partner with, so that sort of support and that access can be given to you. So, Avneet, this month, in fact, I'm very proud to say that we've partnered with two stellar conferences, and the first one is in your home country in UAE. So, please tell everyone about it.
Well, this is one of the world's largest platforms for women industry leaders to meet. It's happening on the 20th and 21st of April at the Atlantis Royal in Dubai. It's called the V Convention, where, we have women across government, across corporates, across entrepreneurship, across, a lot of different countries uniting and talking about everything that women need to know in order to move forward in their lives. So V Convention is happening literally, 10 days away or 8 days away now. The second is Money 2020. I love how their tagline, which is where money does business. So that conference is happening in Bangkok between 23rd to 25th of April, where the entire money ecosystem, whether it's wealth planners, it's fintech players, it's founders across industries, it's regulators, they all get together talking about the future of money. And that's a very cool one happening in Bangkok. And not just that, Dee, we also have our own Incubate Power Circle happening on the 25th of April, which is from idea
Fantastic.
to investment to exit. That is happening in Dubai in partnership with Founder Institute, where we have a very stellar lineup of, a panel that we've put together, followed by networking. So these are the kind of opportunities that you may not even know that exist globally, but through a structured platform like Incubate, whether it is in furthering your business, it's in furthering your network, it's in furthering your brand, you get all these curated opportunities under one roof.
Absolutely. And I do want to say this, right? Sometimes you might feel a little, you can say, shy or reserved to go out there and talk about yourself. And we completely understand that, right? Which is why a network like ours ensures that we very, very actively endorse the members. We endorse their beautiful businesses, and we also kind of give them that credibility, right? I know personally how many times during in person events in India or outside, I have, pushed a conversation between one of our startups and a potential partner, right? And we understand that push is very important, right? So I just want to say this at Ncubate, when Avneet and I 10 years ago were building our businesses, there was no one to push us. So we had to figure out every way to get ourselves pushed into forums where sometimes we were the only ones as women present. But 10 years later, we've created a forum where not only do we want to give you that access, but we also want to push you. We want to somewhere, champion and sponsor you out there, right? So it's time for you to take that call to start building a very, very strong personal brand. And of course, if you need structured support in doing that, Ncubate memberships is a great way to get started for that if you're a female founder in India and Middle East. And Avneet mentioned the 2 conferences. The conferences are open for everyone, for any and everyone in our ecosystem to attend. The good part is we bring you some of the most competitive rates to attend these conferences. So you'll be able to avail as much as 50% discount on tickets across the conferences. So you can go on to our website and write to us, and the teams will get in touch and so on and so forth. But thank you so much. I think that's the time that we have today. Once again, if I haven't drilled it in, remember, it's not you boasting, it's you making space for your brand to breathe, sell, and have its own sort of place in the future. So if this was the push that you needed today, make sure that you put yourself out there, put those 5 objectives, figure out what platforms, start posting, and come see us in a year and tell us if that worked for you.
Superb. With that, we call it a close today. Thank you, Dee, and thank you to everyone who's watching. However, before we wrap up, I'd love for you to hear from some of the women who have really grown in their journeys as a result of being a part of Ncubate. On that note, we'll see you next Friday, and ta-da!
In my startup journey, which hasn't been a very long one so far, one of the highlights for me has been to be a part, in some way, small or otherwise, of Ncubate. It has allowed me the opportunity to meet incredible people, incredible female founders doing incredible things, making impact in sectors across the board, whether it's fashion, technology, finance, education, so on and so forth. And I don't think that would have been as easy to access if it weren't for Ncubate.
And Diksha, I've known them since last 3 years now, and I feel so happy that we started connecting the power circles in Pune, Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, and now here we are in Dubai doing the right kind of networking, helping each other and taking a major leap and helping female founders to a greater extent in whatever field that they require.
Ncubate, to me, is a property that's changing the landscape of how social diversities work, especially in highly conservative areas like India and the Middle East. And I think they're paving the way for a whole new generation of women that are going to show the world that it's a very different time and this time belongs to women.
Ncubate supports women in a way that is enabling a lot for you. So I think for me, they've helped me get funding ready. They've helped me feel more confident about what we're trying to build because when you go to the market, when you try to talk to people, you will hear a lot of people saying, no, this is not big enough, this is not good enough, this is too early, this and that. But I think the people at Ncubate just really, once they believe in you, they just stand by you all through. And that's really the support system in a real sense. So I would say it's a support system for women who are trying to navigate the investment journey. I think that's been a great part of value add for me.
I've been in Dubai for a year and a half, and unfortunately, I don't get a chance to be in a room full of women entrepreneurs. Yes, I find them here and there, but there are no networking opportunities. So I've been trying to become a part of the Ncubate, Dubai delegation for a while, so that I get to meet like-minded women, because I felt that in my last 3 years of journey as an entrepreneur, women have really supported me. These kind of communities and networks have really helped me grow. And I think Ncubate is doing a great job. I don't often see such events happening in Dubai just aimed at women entrepreneurs. So this is amazing, guys. You're doing great.
Diversity has always been a big passion of mine, especially